Today we are looking at a guide that outlines how absolute beginners can use Claude AI and Google Workspace to generate passive income on Etsy by selling digital spreadsheets. But we really need to jump straight into the first area for structural improvement regarding the financial viability of this whole model.
Yeah, absolutely, because the analysis of market demand effectively highlights the appeal of ready-made digital solutions, but the risk of rapid market saturation remains largely unaddressed.
Right. I mean, the guide basically uses this idea of low competition to sell the method, right? Like pointing to a 50-30-20 budget dashboard because it only has 1,200 active listings.
Exactly, and that right there is the fundamental weakness. The material points to the ease of entering a low-competition niche with proven demand, but it completely fails to account for the fact that broadcasting a zero-coding 8-minute AI creation method inherently guarantees that these specific niches will become oversaturated almost overnight.
Which completely threatens the financial viability of the beginner's shop. I mean, if you hand everyone the exact same map to the gold mine, the real challenge isn't the digging, right?
Right, it's finding a spot where you aren't constantly bumping elbows with 10,000 other people.
Exactly. So that 1,200 listing metric is really just a snapshot of the past. It's not a guarantee of the future. The sheer ease of this 20-minute Google Workspace setup actually works against the creator's long-term success.
It really does. So the suggestion here is to evolve the evergreen versus trending product selection method to include defensive market positioning tailored specifically to protect total beginners from a flooded marketplace.
Okay, I like that. Defensive market positioning. So what does that actually look like for someone just starting out?
Well, instead of simply targeting a broad trending tag, like budget tracker, you advise users to identify hyper-specific micro-niches.
Oh, okay. Give me a concrete example of that.
So a concrete example would be prompting the AI to build a 50-30-20 dashboard specifically tailored for freelance traveling nurses.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is super specific.
Right? Or alternatively, you instruct beginners to bundle a trending budget planner with an evergreen business booking spreadsheet.
Wait, so combining two different tools into one product?
Exactly. You create a unique, high-value offer that is much harder for other AI users to instantly replicate. If someone else is using the same 8-minute AI trick, they're looking for the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah, they just want the quick win. They'll copy the basic budget tracker, but they won't bother trying to reverse engineer a complex bundle.
Exactly. And that interconnectivity protects your beginner's initial effort. It builds a moat around their product.
That makes total sense. But if the market is inevitably moving towards saturation and they have to build these more complex bundles, the material's logical next step is to compensate by scaling output speed, right?
Yes. Which leads us directly into the use of simultaneous AI agents and how that speed impacts the promised profit margins.
Right, because leveraging AI for simultaneous product generation presents a compelling case for scaling output. Yet this focus on sheer speed risks overlooking the critical quality control needed to sustain high profit margins.
Exactly. That is a huge weakness in this guide. Championing the ability to run multiple AI agents to build a financial tracker and a wedding planner at the exact same time completely ignores the reality that unverified, complex spreadsheets can easily contain broken formulas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about intricate bar graphs and savings goals and cross-referencing tabs.
And for a beginner with zero coding skills, this directly causes the customer support nightmares the passive income model explicitly promises to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, is a 90% profit margin truly passive if a beginner suddenly has to troubleshoot a broken Google Sheet for a frustrated customer, accelerating the rate of potential customer complaints?
That's exactly what it's doing. And AI doesn't actually do math, right? It predicts text. So it is incredibly easy for it to misalign a cell reference.
Like referencing column D instead of column C, and suddenly the entire wedding catering budget just collapses the second a customer inputs a number?
Yes, and the beginner cannot manually debug that. So the suggestion here is to balance the emphasis on rapid, simultaneous generation with an automated validation framework that protects both the beginner's profit margins and their shop's rating.
Automated validation. So how do we do that without teaching them how to code? Because the whole pitch is zero technical skills.
Right, so for a concrete example, you implement a stress test prompt step. You literally have the user feed the generated Claude code, link back into the AI to simulate edge case data entries.
Oh, that's smart. So you make the AI play the role of the chaotic user?
Exactly. You prompt it to test things like negative budgets or missing dates, just to ensure the pie charts update correctly before launching.
So the creator just watches to see if the sheet returns an error or completely breaks. That probably adds, what, 10 minutes to the process?
Roughly, yeah. But that 10 minutes saves hours of apologetic emails and refunds later.
Which is critical, because of the Etsy algorithm, right? If you get a cluster of one-star reviews in your first week because of broken formulas, you're dead in the water.
Exactly. The algorithm will bury you. Additionally, advise beginners to establish one meticulously verified evergreen product to secure a 5-star baseline reputation before employing the multi-agent scaling tactic.
Get an anchor first. I love that. So let's say they do that. They have a perfectly stress-tested micro niche bundle. It still won't matter if the product remains invisible in the marketplace.
Which naturally transitions to the material strategy on mock-ups and customer purchase decisions.
Right, because recognizing that buyers purchase with their eyes first establishes a strong sales fundamental, though the current approach to generating mock-ups relies on generic prompts that fail to capitalize on the buyer's underlying emotional needs.
Yes, the weakness here is glaring. Recommending a basic Gemini prompt to, quote, place this spreadsheet on a realistic laptop screen for a professional Etsy listing. It just completely misses the psychological core of the material's own premise.
It really does. I mean, the material correctly identifies the customers are buying relief from stress, disorganization, or feeling broke.
But a sterile image of a laptop screen on a white background does absolutely nothing to visually communicate that relief.
It's like window shopping, right? A generic laptop screen is like a blank mannequin. It shows the clothes, but it completely fails to sell the lifestyle.
That is a perfect analogy. If a bride is overwhelmed by wedding logistics, seeing a massive spreadsheet floating in a bright white void just looks like more work. It induces anxiety.
So what's the fix? How do we get beginners to actually analyze what drives clicks?
The suggestion is to elevate the mock-up strategy by tying the AI image generation directly to the specific emotional relief the digital product provides, moving beyond standard tech displays to actually influence purchase decisions.
Okay, I want to hear the concrete examples for this one, because prompting AI for emotion can be tricky.
It can be, but for a concrete example, instruct beginners to prompt Gemini to place the wedding planner on a softly lit, cluttered but cozy cafe table.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, alongside fabric swatches and a cup of coffee to evoke a sense of calm control.
You're visualizing the absence of stress. That's so much better than a blank desk. What about for the budget tracker?
For a budget tracker, suggest prompting for an image showing the spreadsheet on a clean, dual-monitor home office desk in morning sunlight.
Morning sunlight. That's a great detail.
Right? Because it visually signals financial empowerment, clarity, and a fresh start. It tells the buyer this is how you will feel once you organize your money.
And you can tie that directly back into the micro niches we talked about earlier, right?
Exactly. If you're targeting that freelance traveling nurse, you instruct Gemini to generate the morning sunlight desk, but you add a stethoscope resting next to the open laptop.
And maybe a travel mug with an airport sticker?
Yes, that specific combination speaks directly to their chaotic life, while the warm lighting promises control over it. It stops them mid-scroll.
But I guess we should remind them that the data on the screen still has to be legible, right? Like, the aesthetic can't overpower the utility.
Oh, absolutely. The prompt must specify that the screen display remains crisp and high contrast, so they actually know what they are purchasing. But the environmental props do the heavy emotional lifting.
Which completely shifts this from a cheap technical trick into a real sustainable merchandising strategy.
It really does. It transforms a fragile passive income attempt into a resilient business model.
All right, well, to summarize the critique, we recommend implementing 3 high-level improvements today. First, target hyper-specific micro-niches and bundle evergreen with trending products to defend against rapid AI market saturation.
Second, mandate an AI stress test for all simultaneous builds to protect those 90% profit margins from customer support issues.
And finally, upgrade the Gemini mockup prompts to visually communicate emotional relief rather than just displaying a spreadsheet on a screen.
We invite you to apply these actionable strategies to your framework and submit your revised material back to us for another critique.
Because handing someone a money printing machine only works if you teach them how to keep it from jamming. Thanks for joining us for this critique.